Hi folks, we are outside today working on one of my wall plaques. This one's going to be a little bit different because I am going to be using a chainsaw on it. So, this one is a 7-panel. You can see I've done my sketch. They're all 60 centimeters long, 200 millimeters wide. I've just used some coal to give me a rough outline, and then we use the chainsaw to go between the lines. So all the black lines are going to be the peaks, and where there is going to be a trough. Pretty simple. Okay, so I'm going to get some safety equipment on. Get started. I haven't used a chainsaw to use one of these before, so see how it goes. Using the chainsaw just to get my depth, hollow out all the lines in between. I'm going to remove 50% of the depth of the board with the chainsaw, and then I'm going to come with other tools and round it out and define the shape a bit more. Okay, so that's making a mess. Alright, I'm going to switch over now to a die grinder, and I'm going to use one of the saber dome bits to slowly round out my edges a little bit more. I've gotten a basic shape with the chainsaw, and I'm going to start making the wave patterns. So this is one of the saber dome burrs, 1/4-inch shank. Works really well for removing a lot of bulk. You do have to be careful though, because it can catch and kick back on the wood a little bit. I'm going to switch over to a different, slightly more aggressive saber bit, so I can really get on those lines. Alright, moving on to our next bit, using an Arbitec turbo plane on an adjustable or variable speed angle grinder. Set this puppy up to max, and we'll carry on. So you can do this kind of sculpture with any of these bits. They all have their own pros and cons. The thing of this is you have to be careful. This can kick back a little bit. When you're using it, you have to go, imagine that's a face of a clock, so you've got 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 6, 9. You have to use it pretty much between the 12 and the 3. Anywhere else and you can tend to get a bit of kickback. Alright, so before I start, get the guard on. I set it so I can't actually get it from the 9 or the 6. It's only from the top little bits, and I can sculpt away without too much of a risk of kickback. Alright, I'm going to use a gouge, a number 25 mil, to smooth out some of these patterns. Every tool gets used. Using the gouge isn't strictly necessary, but I find I have a lot more control using the gouge than I do using the turbo plane. I can really get into my lines and make the shapes that I want.
And then he told us he's been in 2 boy bands, G4 in 2005, and throughout 2000. And it's mad, unless you actually, yesterday I was getting those missed calls from a Swedish number yesterday. Guess what? Another pop star wants me to
Alright, that's the majority of all the rough shaping done. Used the gouge to really define my lines. Now I'm going to go back and use another saber ball burr. This is a fine one, and just smooth it out before I start the final sanding. Alright, we've gotten down to the sanding bit, and last tool I'm pretty much going to show you is the Arbortech Mini Turbo sanding wheel. So it's the Mini Turbo Carver shaft. You put a sanding pad on the outside. Works great for contour sanding. Yeah, now is the time-consuming bit, actually getting this thing all smooth and polished. Okay, here we go. Alright, so all the shaping is done. Now on to the sanding bit. Sanding, this is the time-consuming bit. I use a couple of things. I use a angle grinder. Oh, here it is. It's got a 4-inch regular pad on it. I get these Velcro foam pads, and they get in there really nicely. So it's start with 80 grit, and I'll go up to 240 to really give it a good polish. But I'm going to start with the Kutzall long neck angle grinder. These are okay. I find that their torque is a bit too high for sanding, but they're not too bad. Okay, so we've gotten all the heavy sanding done. And basically what I'm going to do now is define a little bit of sanding. And I'm going to use these fabric fleece hook and loop pads. They go from 80 grit up to 800 grit. And that's really what's going to give me the final polished sheen on it. And then we're all done. Alright, these sanding fleece pads work really well. But if you use them too aggressively, what you'll find is they actually raises the grain a bit rather than gives you a smooth polish. So that can be a good thing, or use them lightly and then it just gives you a really nice smooth finish. Alright, final step. So I'm going to bathe the whole thing with some white spirits. That's going to show my imperfections, raise the grain up a bit before I do one final little lasting hand sand. Now I've removed these from the backing board so they're all loose. It's a good idea before you do this to number them so you can get them back in the right order. Alright, final step. Alright, my main reason for using the thinners is it actually shows all the imperfections. Any little scratch, any little crack, it really pops up now when you add the spirit finish. That way I can go back, maybe circle them with a pencil and touch them up again with the sander. Okay, last bit of sanding. I'm going to use the Velcro glove and one of the Mirka sanding pads that sticks right on there. Works great. This 360 grit, and it's just going to give everything a white. Nothing too in depth. And then it's done. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the video if you made it this far. Give these a try, they are good fun to make. Do any kind of pattern, any kind of finish you want. Right? The plan for this one is actually wants it colored. So this is going to have a blue ocean effect on it. But that's going to be another video. Lovely and smooth. And that glove, in the UK, it's from a company called, UK or Canada, it's a company called Sandy Hands. If you Google Sandy Hands, you'll find them. Here in the States, just a Velcro glove, I believe. It's a slightly different make. But they do really work great. Now in this video you see me use a whole lot of tools. You don't need to use everything I used. A lot of the stuff I was using just as an experiment to see how efficiently they worked. But the one thing I would say is a must is the angle grinder. That's the most versatile bit because you can use the saber bits, you can use the cut saw bits, you can use flap discs, sanding pads, everything. Okay, so that's it. I don't know, I added in the last little clip, my last scene with my iPad, the wind gusted a little bit stronger and blew my whole stand over and smashed my iPad. So it's still filming, I hope. This is the last video from this iPad. May she rest in peace. But there we go. It's all done. This will be colored. That'll be another video. But you know, it's a really fun project to make. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember to like and subscribe. Any questions, like it. Send me a message. Don't like it, send me a message. I have all the links in the product description for tools I used, sanding pads, pretty much anything. If there's something you have a question about, just send me a link. Thanks for watching.